Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Endeavour and watched Earth grow larger on the main screen. After 3 long years in deep space, he was finally coming home. The blue and white planet looked exactly as he remembered it, but everything else had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Jake touched the datapad in his jacket pocket. Inside were the signed agreements that would change human history forever. The Galactic Council had accepted Earth as a member. 3 powerful alien races had welcomed humanity into their ancient alliance. It was the greatest achievement in human history. "Captain, we're getting signals from Earth Control," said Lieutenant Ben Hayes from the communication station. "They want to throw us a parade," Jake smiled. "Tell them we'll be honored to accept." He looked around the bridge at his crew. Dr. Lisa Parker sat at the science station, still reading through alien technology manuals. Engineer Tom Wright was checking system reports. Commander Amy Rodriguez reviewed military cooperation protocols. They had all worked so hard for this moment. The Endeavour had left Earth when humanity's first contact with aliens was only 6 months old. The Vorthak Empire had arrived first, their massive ships appearing near Jupiter without warning. The reptilian aliens had been polite but distant. They explained that Earth was now within their territory, and that humans would need to prove themselves worthy of survival. Then came the Zephyrian Collective. These strange, floating beings of pure energy had seemed more friendly than the Vorthaks. They offered to teach humans about advanced technology and medicine. They spoke of peace and cooperation between species. The third race to arrive was the Crenari hives. The insect-like aliens had been the most businesslike of all. They wanted to establish trade relationships and offered to help Earth defend itself against other threats in the galaxy. Jake remembered how scared everyone had been at first. Humanity had always imagined that first contact with aliens would be either wonderful or terrible. Instead, it had been complicated. The 3 alien races all claimed to want to help Earth, but they also made it clear that humanity had to earn its place in the galaxy. That was where Jake and his crew came in. The Endeavour had been sent to visit each alien homeworld and negotiate humanity's entry into the Galactic Council. It had been the most important diplomatic mission in human history. "Doctor?" Parker looked up from her reading. "Jake, I still can't believe how advanced their medical technology is. The Zephyrians showed me healing techniques that could eliminate most human diseases. The Vorthaks have genetic treatments that could extend human life by centuries. And the Crenari have biological enhancements that could make humans stronger and smarter." "It's incredible," Jake agreed. 3 years ago we thought we were alone. Now we're about to join a galactic civilization that's thousands of years ahead of us. The negotiations had not been easy. Each alien race had wanted something different from humanity. The Vorthaks had demanded that Earth restructure its military along their lines. The Zephyrians had insisted that humans accept their guidance on social and cultural development. The Crenari had wanted exclusive trading rights for certain Earth resources. But Jake had been patient. He had listened to their demands and found ways to compromise. Slowly, over months of careful diplomacy, he had convinced all 3 races that humanity could be a valuable addition to their alliance. "Captain," called Lieutenant Hayes from communications. "Admiral Collins is requesting a private channel." Jake nodded. Admiral Pete Collins was in charge of Earth's space defense. He would want a full report on the military cooperation agreements. "Put him through to my ready room." A few minutes later, Jake was looking at Collins's face on his personal screen. The Admiral looked tired but excited. "Jake, you and your crew have done something amazing," Collins said. "The whole planet is celebrating. The alien representatives here on Earth are already beginning the technology transfer process. We're going to have fusion power, faster than light travel, and advanced weapons within the year." "That's wonderful, sir," Jake replied. The aliens seemed genuinely interested in helping us develop. They said that strong allies make the galaxy safer for everyone. Collins nodded. "The Vorthak military advisors are already reviewing our defense plans. The Zephyrian healers are working with our doctors, and the Crenari engineers are helping us upgrade our manufacturing systems. It's like Christmas morning for our entire species." Jake felt a warm sense of pride. All those months of difficult negotiations had been worth it. Humanity was about to leap forward by thousands of years of development. After ending the call with Collins, Jake returned to the bridge. The Endeavor was now entering Earth's atmosphere, and he could see the lights of cities below. Somewhere down there, alien beings were working alongside humans to build a better future for everyone. "Captain," said Dr. Parker, "I've been thinking about something. During our visits to the alien worlds, did you notice that we never met any representatives from other species? I mean, if the Galactic Council includes so many different races, why did we only deal with these three?" Jake paused. It was a good question. The aliens had mentioned other species in the galaxy, but they had always been vague about details. Maybe the other species weren't interested in Earth, he suggested. Or maybe these three races were assigned to handle our case. "Maybe," Dr. Parker said, but she didn't sound convinced. Lieutenant Hayes looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm picking up some strange transmissions. Encrypted signals between the alien ships in our solar system. They're not using any of the standard diplomatic channels." "Probably just routine communications," Jake said. "They have their own protocols just like we do." But as the Endeavor descended toward Earth, Jake felt a small doubt growing in the back of his mind. The aliens had been helpful and generous, but they had also been very controlling about what information they shared. They had their own reasons for everything they did. Jake shook his head. He was being paranoid. After 3 years of successful negotiations, humanity was finally part of something bigger than itself. Earth would never be the same, and that was a good thing. The universe was vast and dangerous, and humans needed powerful friends to survive. The Endeavor touched down at the spaceport to crowds of cheering people. Jake and his crew were heroes. They had secured humanity's future among the stars. As he walked down the ramp into the warm Earth air, Jake felt proud of what they had accomplished. He had no way of knowing that he had just delivered his species into the hands of their executioners. 3 months had passed since Captain Jake Morrison returned to Earth with the Galactic Treaties. The celebration parties were over, and humanity was settling into its new role as a member of the Galactic Council. Every day brought new wonders, as alien technology was integrated into human society. Jake stood in the command center of the newly built Galactic Relations Building in New York. Through the large windows, he could see Vorthax ships patrolling the skies alongside human fighters. It should have been a sight that filled him with pride, but something felt wrong. "Captain Morrison," called Agent Kate Miller from across the room. She was part of Earth's intelligence service and had been monitoring alien communications. "We need to talk privately." Jake followed her to a secure room. Kate's face was serious, more serious than he had ever seen it. "We've been tracking communication patterns between the alien ships," Kate said. "There's something strange happening. The three races are talking to each other a lot more than they talk to us, and their messages are heavily encrypted." "Maybe they're just coordinating their help for us," Jake suggested, but he didn't sound convinced even to himself. Kate shook her head. "That's what I thought at first, but the pattern is wrong. If they were helping us, they would include us in their communications. Instead, they're talking about us, not with us." Before Jake could respond, his communicator buzzed. It was Dr. Lisa Parker calling from the colony of New Haven, one of humanity's outer settlements. "Jake, we have a problem here." Lisa's voice was tight with worry. "The new defense systems the aliens installed are malfunctioning. We've lost contact with 3 other colonies in the past week." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What kind of malfunctions?" "That's just it," Lisa replied. "Our engineer Tom Wright has been looking at the systems, and he says they're not malfunctioning. They're being shut down remotely." Kate and Jake exchanged a look. This was exactly what they had been afraid of. "We're coming to New Haven," Jake said into the communicator. "Don't trust any of the alien-provided equipment until we get there." 2 hours later, Jake, Kate, and tech specialist Sam Carter were aboard a fast transport heading for New Haven. The colony was located on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, and had been one of the first to receive the new alien defense upgrades. When they arrived at New Haven, they found the colony in chaos. The fusion power plant that the Chronari had installed was running at dangerous levels. The medical center equipped with Zephyrian healing technology was reporting strange side effects in patients, and the Vorthak communication systems were broadcasting signals that no one could understand. Tom Wright met them at the landing pad. His face was grim. "It's worse than we thought," he said. "I've been analyzing the alien technology, and it's not what they told us it was." He led them to his workshop, where pieces of alien equipment were scattered across workbenches. "Look at this," Tom said, pointing to a device that looked like a standard communication relay. "The Vorthak said this would improve our communications with Earth, but hidden inside is a system that can intercept and block any message we try to send." Sam Carter, who was one of Earth's best computer experts, examined the device. "This is incredible," he said. "The complexity of this hidden system is amazing. It would take months to find all the secret functions built into this thing." "That's not the worst part," Tom continued. He showed them to another table where medical equipment was laid out. Dr. Parker found something disturbing about the Zephyrian medical treatments. Dr. Parker appeared from the back of the workshop. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "The healing drugs they gave us aren't just medicine," she said. "They contain genetic markers that change human DNA. Small changes, but permanent ones." "What kind of changes?" Jake asked. "They make humans dependent on the drugs," Lisa explained. "After a few treatments, a person's body can't function normally without them. It's like they're creating addicts, but the addiction is built into our genes." Kate was taking notes on everything they were showing her. "This is systematic," she said. "Each alien race has given us technology that creates a different kind of dependency. The Vorthaks control our communications and defense. The Zephyrians control our health. The Chronari control our power and manufacturing." Jake felt sick. Everything they had celebrated 3 months ago was turning into a nightmare. "But why? Why would they go to all this trouble?" "Because they're not trying to help us," Tom said. "They're trying to control us. And once we're completely dependent on their technology, they can do whatever they want with us." Sam Carter had been quietly working on one of the alien devices. Suddenly, he looked up with excitement. "I think I can break into their communication system," he said. "If I can decode their messages, we might learn what they're really planning." For the next several hours, the team worked frantically to crack the alien encryption. Kate used her intelligence training to analyze communication patterns. Tom and Sam worked together to reverse engineer the alien technology. Dr. Parker continued, studying the biological effects of the alien treatments. Finally, as the sun was setting over Europa's icy surface, Sam called out in triumph, "I've got it! I'm receiving their communications." The team gathered around Sam's computer screen. Alien text scrolled across the display, but Sam had written a translation program. As the words appeared in English, everyone in the room fell silent. The messages were between the 3 alien races discussing the progress of something called Project Harvest. They talked about human resistance levels, the effectiveness of the dependency programs, and timeline estimates for full pacification. One message made Jake's blood run cold. Human military capabilities reduced by 67%. Medical dependency established in 34% of population. Communication networks compromised. Estimate 6 months until species is ready for processing. "Processing," Kate whispered. "They're not trying to help us join their civilization. They're preparing us for something else." Dr. Parker was reading over more of the messages. "Look at this one," she said. "They're talking about other species, dozens of them, and they all follow the same pattern. Diplomatic contact, technology, sharing, dependency creation, and then something called harvesting." The room was quiet except for the hum of alien machinery. Everything they had believed about humanity's future was a lie. The 3 alien races weren't allies. They were predators, and humans were their prey. Jake looked at his team. These were some of Earth's best and brightest people, and they had all been fooled. If they could be deceived so completely, what chance did the rest of humanity have? "We have to warn Earth," Jake said. "We have to tell them what's really happening." "How?" Kate asked. "The aliens control our communications. If we try to send a message, they'll intercept it. And even if we could get word to Earth," Tom added, Who would believe us? The aliens have been so helpful and generous. People will think we're crazy. Jake looked out the window at the alien ships patrolling around Europa. They weren't protecting the human colony. They were guarding their investment. Then we'll have to find proof that no one can ignore, Jake said. We'll have to show everyone exactly what these aliens really are. But as he said the words, Jake wondered if it was already too late. How do you fight an enemy that has already convinced you? They're your friend? Captain Jake Morrison knew they needed more proof. The alien messages they had decoded were damaging, but they needed something that would convince everyone on Earth, something the aliens could not deny or explain away. There's a Vorthak research facility on Titan, Commander Amy Rodriguez said during their emergency meeting. I've been training with their military advisors, and they mentioned it several times. They said it was for studying Saturn's atmosphere, but they were always secretive about it. Jake looked at the star charts on the table. Titan was Saturn's largest moon, only a few hours away from Europa. What kind of security does it have? That's the strange thing, Amy replied. For a research station, it has military-level defenses, weapon systems, patrol ships, the works. Why would atmospheric research need that much protection? Sam Carter had been working on his computer while they talked. I've been monitoring their communications since we broke their encryption, he said. The Vorthaks have been sending a lot of traffic to and from Titan, much more than a simple research station would need. Dr. Lisa Parker studied the medical data they had collected. If they're doing experiments on other species like they're doing to us, Titan would be the perfect place. Far from Earth, isolated, easy to control. Jake made his decision. We're going to Titan. Amy, can you get us inside? Amy nodded. I know their security codes and patrol schedules. The Vorthaks trust me because I've been working with their training programs. They won't suspect me of being a spy. 2 days later, a small human transport ship approached Titan. To any alien sensors, it would look like Amy was conducting a routine inspection of human colony ships in the area. But hidden in the cargo bay were Jake, Lisa, Sam, and Tom Wright. The Vorthak facility was built into Titan's icy surface. From space, it looked like a few small buildings and landing pads. But as they got closer, Jake could see that it was much larger than it appeared. Most of the complex was underground. Amy landed the ship at the visitor's pad and went through the normal check-in procedures. The Vorthak guards knew her and waved her through without much inspection. Once she was inside, she quietly disabled the internal security cameras in the section where the others were hiding. Okay, you can come out now, Amy whispered into her communicator. But stay quiet, this place is bigger than we thought. Jake and his team slipped out of the cargo bay and followed Amy through the facility's corridors. The walls were lined with strange alien writing and pictures of creatures Jake had never seen before. But what worried him most were the empty holding cells they passed. These aren't research labs, Tom whispered. These are prison cells. They reached a central computer terminal, and Sam immediately began working to access the alien data systems. His fingers flew over the alien controls as he used the decryption methods they had developed. I'm in, Sam said after several minutes. And Jake, you need to see this. The computer screen filled with files and images. There were records of dozens of different alien species, each with detailed biological and psychological profiles. But these weren't scientific studies. They were conquest reports. Look at this, Lisa said, pointing to one of the files. The Altarians. The record says they were contacted 50 years ago, offered membership in the Galactic Council, given advanced technology to help them develop. Jake read over her shoulder. And then? Then they were harvested. Their planet was stripped of resources, and the survivors were used as workers for the Alien Alliance. The entire species was enslaved in less than 10 years. Sam pulled up more files. Each one told the same story. Diplomatic contact, technology sharing, dependency creation, and then total conquest. The pattern had been repeated hundreds of times, across the galaxy. The 3 alien races aren't a peaceful alliance, Jake realized. They're a conquest machine. They've been doing this for thousands of years. Amy was standing guard at the door, but she could hear what they were discovering. How many species have they destroyed? According to this database, Sam replied, over 300. Some were completely wiped out, others were enslaved. A few were kept as breeding stock for biological experiments. Dr. Parker found another section of files that made her face go pale. Jake, look at this. They have detailed plans for humanity. They've been studying us for much longer than we thought. The files showed that the aliens had been observing Earth for over 50 years before making first contact. They had studied human psychology, biology, and social structures. They knew exactly how to approach humanity to gain trust and cooperation. This is why they used 3 different species, Lisa explained. They knew that humans would be suspicious of a single alien race, but multiple races offering different types of help would seem more trustworthy. Tom was examining technical specifications in the files. They've done this same approach with dozens of species. The Vorthax handle military and communication control. The Zephyrians manage biological and medical dependency. The Krenari take over economic and industrial systems. It's like a factory system for conquering entire civilizations, Jake said. They've perfected it over thousands of years. Sam found the most disturbing file of all. Here's the timeline for Earth, he said. Phase 1 was first contact and treaty negotiation. Phase 2 is dependency creation and infrastructure control. We're currently in month 3 of Phase 2. What's Phase 3? Amy asked from the doorway. Sam's voice was grim as he read. Resistance elimination and population control. They plan to remove or neutralize anyone who might oppose them. Scientists, military leaders, political figures. Anyone with the knowledge or authority to organize resistance. When does Phase 3 begin? Jake asked. According to this schedule, in 3 months. They're already identifying targets on Earth. Jake felt sick as he realized what this meant. They're going to start killing people. Anyone who might figure out what's happening or try to fight back. Lisa found another section that made her gasp. Jake, they have biological profiles of every human who's received their medical treatments. They can target specific individuals with customized biological weapons. We have to get this information back to Earth, Jake said. People need to know what's coming. But as he said this, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Red lights flashed and alien voices echoed through the corridors. Amy, what's happening? Jake called. They've discovered we're here, Amy replied. Security teams are heading this way. Sam was frantically copying files from the alien computer. I need more time, there's so much information here. How much time do you need? Jake asked. At least 10 more minutes to get everything. Jake could hear the sound of alien footsteps getting closer. Amy, how many guards are coming? Too many for us to fight. We need to run now. Jake looked at Sam, who was still working desperately to copy the alien files. These records could save humanity, but only if they could get them back to Earth. Keep working, Jake told Sam. We'll buy you the time you need. Jake, Lisa, Tom, and Amy prepared to hold off the alien guards for as long as possible. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the aliens didn't expect. They had nothing left to lose, and everything to fight for. The future of humanity depended on the next few minutes, and Jake Morrison was not going to let his species go quietly into slavery. The real war for Earth's freedom was about to begin. The sound of alien weapons echoed through the corridors of the Titan facility. Jake Morrison pressed his back against the wall and checked his energy pistol. They had maybe 5 minutes before the Vorthak guards would break through their makeshift barricade. Sam, how much longer? Jake shouted over the noise of the firefight. Almost done, Sam Carter replied, his fingers still flying over the alien computer. Just need to copy the resistance files and the target lists. Commander Amy Rodriguez fired around the corner at the approaching guards. They're bringing heavier weapons. We can't hold this position much longer. Tom Wright had rigged an explosive device from spare parts in his toolkit. This should slow them down, he said, placing it at the entrance to their corridor. But it's only going to buy us a few more minutes. Dr. Lisa Parker was helping Sam copy the files. Jake, these records show something important. The aliens have done this to over 300 species, but 12 of those species fought back successfully. What do you mean, successfully? Jake, asked while reloading his weapon. They either drove the aliens away or made the cost of conquest too high, Lisa explained. There's a pattern in how they did it. Sam's computer beeped. I've got everything. All the files, all the evidence, all their plans for Earth. We need to get out of here now. Tom's explosive device went off with a loud bang, filling the corridor with smoke and debris. That won't stop them for long, he warned. Amy led them through a maintenance tunnel she had spotted earlier. The tunnel was narrow and dark, but it led away from the main facility toward their landing pad. As they crawled through the cramped space, Lisa continued explaining what she had learned from the alien records. The species that successfully resisted had one thing in common, she said. They all figured out the aliens' weakness before it was too late. What weakness? Jake asked. The three alien races need each other to make their conquest system work. If you can break their cooperation, their whole plan falls apart. They reached the end of the tunnel and found themselves near their transport ship. But alien guards were already surrounding it. Amy counted at least 20 Vorthak soldiers between them and their escape route. We're trapped, Tom whispered. Jake thought quickly. They had the evidence they needed to warn Earth, but only if they could get back home, alive. Amy, do you still have access to the facility's communication system? Yes, but if I use it, they'll trace the signal back to us immediately. Do it anyway, Jake decided. Send everything to Earth on all frequencies. Even if they catch us, the information will get through. Amy connected her portable transmitter to the facility's main communication array. This is going to take several minutes to upload all the files. The alien guards were getting closer. Jake could see them moving in formation, preparing for a final assault. But then something unexpected happened. Wait, Sam said, looking at his scanner. I'm picking up human ships approaching Titan. Multiple ships. Through the facility's windows, they could see lights in space getting brighter. Human military vessels were arriving in the Saturn system. Amy's communicator crackled to life. Commander Rodriguez, this is Admiral Pete Collins aboard the battleship Liberty. We received your emergency transmission from Europa. Are you in need of assistance? Jake grabbed the communicator. Admiral, this is Captain Morrison. We have critical intelligence about the alien threat. We're trapped at the Vorthak facility on Titan with enemy forces closing in. Understood, Captain. We're moving to extract you now. The Vorthak guards suddenly stopped their advance as human fighters screamed overhead. The aliens began retreating toward their own ships, clearly not expecting a human military response. How did they know to come here? Tom asked. Agent Kate Miller, Jake realized. She must have been monitoring our mission and called for backup when we didn't report in. Within an hour, Jake and his team were safely aboard Admiral Collins's flagship. The bridge was crowded with human officers studying the alien files that Sam had recovered. This is worse than we imagined, Admiral Collins said after reviewing the evidence. According to these records, the aliens plan to begin Phase 3 in less than 3 months. What's our current military situation? Jake asked. Colonel Matt Thompson, the Admiral's chief of staff, pulled up tactical displays. Not good. The aliens have convinced us to integrate their technology into most of our defense systems. If they activate their hidden controls, they can shut down 60% of our military capability. And that's not our only problem, added Major Sue Davis from the Intelligence Department. The medical treatments have been distributed to over 100 million people on Earth. If the aliens activate the biological control agents, they can incapacitate a third of our population. Jake studied the tactical information. What about the colonies? How many people are living on off-world settlements now? About 50 million across 30 different worlds and space stations, Admiral Collins replied. But most of those colonies depend on alien-provided life support systems. Dr. Parker had been reviewing the biological data from the Titan facility. There's something else, she said. The aliens have been studying human genetics for decades. They've identified specific traits that make us dangerous to them. What traits? Jake asked. Our adaptability, our creativity, our ability to work together under pressure, and our refusal to give up even when facing impossible odds, Lisa explained. According to their analysis, Humans are the first species they've encountered that might actually be able to overthrow their entire galactic empire. That's why they're so determined to eliminate us. Colonel Thompson realized, we're not just another conquest to them, we're an existential threat. Admiral Collins called his senior staff together. We need to develop a strategy fast. The aliens think they have us trapped, but we still have some advantages. What advantages? Major Davis asked. Engineer Tom Wright had been studying the alien technology files. We know how their systems work now. We can build countermeasures for most of their control mechanisms. It won't be easy, but it's possible. Sam Carter was already working on technical solutions. If we can purge their technology from our critical systems and develop immunity to their biological weapons, we might have a chance. But that will leave us defenseless for weeks, Admiral Collins pointed out. If we remove their technology, we won't have modern weapons or shields when their fleets arrive. Jake looked around the room at Earth's military leaders. These were good people who had been trying to do their best for humanity. They had been fooled just like everyone else, but now they knew the truth. Then we'll have to fight them the human way, Jake said. We'll use our creativity, our adaptability, and our refusal to surrender. We'll turn their own plan against them. How? Admiral Collins asked. Jake pulled up the Galactic Communication Network on the main display. The aliens have been using the same conquest pattern for thousands of years. But now we have proof of what they've done to hundreds of other species. We're going to broadcast that evidence to every world in the galaxy. You want to start a galactic rebellion? Major Davis asked. I want to give every enslaved species in the galaxy a chance to fight back, Jake replied. The aliens' power comes from keeping their victims isolated and hopeless. But if all their victims work together... Admiral, Collins smiled for the first time in days. It might actually work. But first, we need to survive their attack on Earth. We will, Jake said with confidence he didn't entirely feel. Because we're human, and humans don't give up. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin, but for the first time since discovering the alien conspiracy, Jake felt hope. They had a plan, they had the truth, and they had something the aliens had never faced before. They had humanity united and fighting for its freedom. The alien fleets appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system exactly on schedule. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human flagship Victory and watched the enemy ships approach. There were hundreds of them, massive vessels from all three alien races working together as they had for thousands of years. Captain, they're sending us a message, reported Lieutenant Ben Hayes from the communication station. Put it on the main screen, Jake ordered. The face of a Vorthak commander appeared. His reptilian features twisted in what might have been a smile. Humans of Earth, this is Fleet Commander Vex of the Galactic Council. You have violated your treaty agreements and attacked our peaceful research facilities. Surrender now, and we will be merciful. Jake stepped forward to respond. For 3 weeks, humanity had been preparing for this moment. They had removed all alien technology from their critical systems. Dr. Lisa Parker had developed biological countermeasures for the alien medical weapons. Engineer Tom Wright had created new defense systems using only human technology. It had been the most intense military preparation in human history. This is Captain Jake Morrison speaking for the people of Earth, Jake said calmly. We know who you are. We know what you've done. We know about the 300 species you've enslaved and destroyed. Your lies end here. The alien commander's expression changed to surprise, then anger. You know nothing, primitive creatures. Your resistance is meaningless. Surrender or be destroyed. Jake smiled. We have a better idea. Why don't you evacuate our space now, before you learn why humanity was never meant to join your galaxy? We were meant to inherit it. The transmission ended and Jake turned to his crew. Send the signal to all ships and colonies. Begin Operation Lighthouse. Across the solar system, human transmitters activated simultaneously. But they weren't broadcasting to Earth's forces. They were sending a message to every star system in the galaxy, using the aliens' own communication network against them. Sam Carter had spent 3 weeks preparing the broadcast. It contained all the evidence they had gathered from the Titan, facility, along with detailed information about how the alien conquest system worked. The message was translated into hundreds of languages and sent to every known world where alien enslaved species lived. "The galaxy will know the truth," Sam reported. "Every species under alien control is receiving our evidence right now." Admiral Pete Collins coordinated the defense from the command center on Earth. "All ships prepare for battle. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every enslaved world in the galaxy." The alien fleets moved closer, expecting an easy victory. They had used their standard conquest pattern hundreds of times before. First, they would disable Earth's defenses using hidden controls in their technology. Then they would deploy biological weapons to incapacitate the human population. Finally, they would land occupation forces to begin the harvesting process. But when Fleet Commander Vex activated the hidden controls, nothing happened. The human ships continued functioning normally. "Impossible," Vex hissed. "Their systems should be shutting down." "Sir," reported his communications officer, "the humans have removed all of our technology from their military systems. They're running on purely primitive equipment." Vex was confused but not worried. Human technology was thousands of years behind alien science. "Then we will destroy them easily. Deploy the biological weapons." Alien ships released clouds of specially designed viruses and toxins toward Earth. These biological weapons had been created specifically to target human genetics. They should have incapacitated millions of people within hours. Instead, the biological weapons were neutralized by countermeasures that Dr. Parker had developed. She had used the aliens' own research against them, creating vaccines and treatments that protected humans from every biological attack in the alien arsenal. "Sir," the Vorthak officer reported with growing concern, "the biological weapons are having no effect. The humans appear to be immune." For the first time in thousands of years, Fleet Commander Vex felt something he had almost forgotten: uncertainty. "How is this possible? No species has ever resisted both our technological and biological attacks." "Because no species has ever been human," came Jake's voice over the communication channel. "You studied us for 50 years, but you never understood what makes us dangerous. We don't just adapt to survive. We adapt to win." The space battle that followed was unlike anything the aliens had ever experienced. Human ships were individually weaker than alien vessels, but they fought with a coordination and creativity that confused their enemies. When alien tactics followed predictable patterns, human commanders improvised new strategies on the spot. Colonel Matt Thompson led fighter squadrons that used seemingly random attack patterns. Major Sue Davis coordinated defense platforms that fired from unexpected angles. The aliens found themselves constantly surprised by human tactics that made no logical sense, but somehow worked. But the real shock came when reports began arriving from across the galaxy. The humans' broadcast had triggered something the aliens never expected: a coordinated rebellion on dozens of worlds. "Sir," the Krenari intelligence officer reported to Fleet Commander Vex, "we're receiving distress calls from 17 different systems. The enslaved species are uprising simultaneously." "Impossible," Vex replied. "How could they coordinate across such distances?" "They're using the humans' broadcast as a signal," the officer explained. "Every enslaved world received the evidence at the same time, and they're all rebelling together. On the captured world of Altair, the surviving members of the once great civilization broke out of their work camps. On the mining planet of Kepler, enslaved species overwhelmed their alien overseers. Across the galaxy, hundreds of worlds that had been conquered using the aliens' diplomatic deception were fighting back with the fury of beings who finally understood what had been done to them. Three-species alliance that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years was suddenly fighting a war on hundreds of fronts. Their fleets were scattered across space, trying to contain rebellions that were spreading faster than they could respond. Back at Earth, Jake watched the tactical displays showing the galactic situation. "They're losing," he reported to Admiral Klins. "Their empire is collapsing." Fleet Commander Vex made one final attempt to complete his mission. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human homeworld. If we can destroy Earth, The rebellion will collapse. But as the alien fleet moved to attack Earth directly, they discovered humanity's final surprise. The humans hadn't just removed alien technology from their ships, they had weaponized it. Tom Wright's engineering teams had turned every piece of alien equipment into a bomb. As the alien fleet approached Earth, thousands of hidden devices activated simultaneously. Alien ships throughout the solar system suffered cascading system failures as their own technology turned against them. "This is impossible," Vex screamed as his flagship systems began shutting down. "How did they turn our technology against us?" "The same way we turn everything against our enemies," Jake replied over the communication channel. "We refused to give up, and we never stopped learning. You wanted to harvest humanity, but instead, you taught us how to harvest an entire galaxy." Within hours, the alien fleet was defeated. Some ships surrendered, others retreated, and many were destroyed by their own technology. The three-species alliance that had seemed invincible was broken. As reports continued arriving from across the galaxy, it became clear that the rebellion was succeeding everywhere. Species that had been enslaved for generations were winning their freedom, inspired by humanity's example and armed with the truth about their oppressors. Jake stood on the bridge of the Victory and looked out at the stars. 3 months ago, humanity had thought they were joining a peaceful galactic civilization. Now they found themselves leading a galactic revolution. "Captain," Sam Carter reported, "we're receiving thanks from liberated worlds across the galaxy. They want to know what humanity plans to do next." Jake thought about the question. Humans had never wanted to conquer the galaxy. They had just wanted to be free. But freedom, it turned out, was something that had to be shared to be real. "Tell them we're going to do what humans do best," Jake replied. "We're going to help everyone. Build something better. The galaxy would never be the same. The age of deception and conquest was over. The age of cooperation and freedom had begun, and humanity would make sure it lasted." Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the stars through the main view screen. The space around them looked peaceful, but Jake knew better. War was coming to their galaxy, and it was unlike anything humans had ever faced before. The communication officer, Lieutenant Sam Rivers, turned in his chair. His face was pale and worried. "Captain, we're getting emergency signals from the outer colonies. Multiple ships are reporting attacks." Jake moved closer to Sam's station. "What kind of attacks?" "Unknown vessels, sir. Silver ships that move faster than anything we've seen. They're destroying everything in their path." Sam's hands shook as he worked the controls. New Austin Colony just went silent. So did the mining station at Kepler 7. Jake felt his stomach drop. New Austin had over 2 million people. The mining station had families living there too. Any survivors? A few ships managed to escape. They're heading toward Earth, but... Sam stopped talking and listened to his headset. His face went even whiter. "Captain, Admiral Patterson is calling from Earth Command, Priority 1. The main screen changed to show Admiral Lisa Patterson sitting at her desk on Earth. She looked tired and scared. Behind her, Jake could see officers running back and forth. Everyone looked panicked. "Jake," Admiral Patterson said without any greeting. "How fast can you get the Liberty back to Earth?" 3 days at maximum speed, Jake replied. "Admiral, what's happening out there?" Patterson rubbed her forehead. "We're calling it the Zephyrian Empire. That's what the survivors are calling them. Jake, in the past week, they've destroyed 15 colonies and 12 military outposts. We've never seen ships like theirs." Jake's chief engineer, Kelly Brooks, stepped forward. She was a tough woman who had served on starships for 20 years. "What kind of ships, Admiral?" "Crystal-like hulls that seem to bend light around them. Energy weapons that cut through our shields like they're not even there. And Jake," Patterson paused, "they don't seem to be trying very hard. Our best battleships barely slow them down." The bridge went quiet. Everyone was listening now. Jake could see the fear in their eyes. The Liberty was a good ship with a good crew, but if the Navy's best battleships couldn't stop these aliens, what chance did they have? "All ships are falling back to Earth," Patterson continued. "We're setting up defensive positions around the solar system. It might be our last stand." Jake nodded. We'll be there in 3 days, Admiral. Good. And Jake? Bring everyone home. We're going to need every ship and every person we can get. The screen went dark. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. These people had been through battles before, but nothing like this. Sam was just 25 years old. Kelly had grandchildren on Earth. They were all scared, but they were trying not to show it. Captain, said Dr. Amanda Price, the ship's science officer. She had been studying the reports from the surviving ships. I think we need to see this for ourselves. Jake turned to her. Amanda was smart, maybe the smartest person on the ship. If she had an idea, he wanted to hear it. The attack patterns, Amanda continued. The survivors all described the same thing. These Zephyrians attack in perfect formation. They use the same tactics every time. It's like they're following a script. What are you thinking? Jake asked. I'm thinking they've done this before. Many times. They've perfected their attack methods by conquering other species. Amanda pulled up a star map on her screen. Look at this. The survivors report seeing hundreds of different ship types in the Zephyrian fleet. Not just Zephyrian ships, but ships from other species too. Kelly stepped closer to look at the map. You think they're using captured ships? I think they're using captured everything. Ships, weapons, maybe even captured crews forced to fight for them. Amanda's voice was grim. They're not just conquerors, they're collectors. They take the best of what each species has and add it to their own forces. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. How many species do you think they've conquered? Based on the ship types the survivors reported, maybe dozens, maybe hundreds? Amanda looked directly at Jake. Captain, I think we need to learn everything we can about how they fight before we get to Earth. What do you mean? I mean we should find them, watch them, study their tactics. Amanda's idea was dangerous, and everyone knew it. If we just run back to Earth with everyone else, we'll be fighting blind. But if we can learn how they operate, Jake thought about it. The smart thing would be to follow orders and return to Earth immediately. But Amanda was right. If they arrived at Earth knowing nothing about the enemy, they would just be another ship waiting to die. Sam, Jake said, plot a course to intercept the refugee ships. I want to talk to the survivors myself. Yes, sir. Jake walked back to his command chair. Around him, his crew went to work. They were still scared, but now they had something to do. That was important. Fear could paralyze people, but having a mission gave them focus. 2 hours later, they caught up with a damaged freighter called the New Hope. The captain was an older man named Bill Carter, who had run cargo between the outer colonies for 30 years. His ship was badly damaged, with burn marks across the hull where energy weapons had hit it. Jake met with Captain Carter in the Liberty's conference room. Carter was shaking as he told his story. They came out of nowhere, Carter said. 1 minute the space around New Austin was empty. The next minute, there were hundreds of silver ships just appearing like ghosts. They didn't even warn us, just started shooting. How long did the battle last? Jake asked. Battle? Carter laughed, but there was no humor in it. There was no battle. It was over in 20 minutes. 20 minutes to destroy everything we built over 50 years. Amanda leaned forward. Did you see how they attacked? Perfect lines. Like they were dancing instead of fighting. Our defense platforms shot at them, but their shields just absorbed everything. Then they would fire back, and whatever they hit just disappeared. Jake exchanged looks with Amanda. This matched what the other survivors had reported. Captain Carter, Jake said carefully, we're thinking about going back, to study them, to learn how they fight. Carter stared at him like he was crazy. Son, you go back there, and you'll die. Simple as that. These things aren't like us. They don't make mistakes, they don't get tired. They just kill everything in their path and move on to the next target. After Carter left, Jake called a meeting with his senior officers. The conference room was crowded with worried faces. I know this is dangerous, Jake began, but I think Amanda is right. We need to learn about these Zephyrians before we face them in a real battle. Kelly spoke up first. Captain, with respect, one ship against their entire fleet? That's not dangerous, that's suicide. Not if we're smart about it, Amanda said. We don't engage them, we just watch, learn their patterns, figure out how they think. Sam looked nervous. But what if they detect us? Then we run, Jake said simply. The Liberty is fast. We stay at extreme range, use passive sensors only. If they spot us, we jump to hyperspace immediately. The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Kelly sighed. Well, I guess dying out here is better than dying at Earth and taking 2 billion people with us. Jake looked around the room. Anyone who wants to transfer to one of the refugee ships can do so. No questions asked. This is volunteer only. Nobody moved. Jake felt proud of his crew, even though he was terrified of what they were about to do. All right then, he said. Let's go learn how to fight the impossible. The USS Liberty had been following the Zephyrian fleet for 3 weeks now. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the shadows of the bridge, watching the enemy ships move across the star field like deadly silver fish. His crew worked quietly at their stations, afraid that even a whisper might give them away. Lieutenant Sam Rivers looked up from his communication console. Captain, they're attacking another system. Looks like the Centauri colonies. Jake moved to stand behind Sam's chair. On the screen, they could see dozens of Zephyrian ships moving into perfect attack formation. The alien vessels were beautiful, in a terrifying way, their crystal hulls catching and bending starlight like living diamonds. How long until they reach the colonies? Jake asked quietly. 18 minutes at their current speed, Sam replied. Should I try to warn them? Jake shook his head. They already know. Look at the long-range sensors. The colonists are already evacuating. Dr. Amanda Price looked up from her science station. For 3 weeks, she had been studying every piece of data they could gather about the Zephyrians. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, and she had lost weight from skipping meals. Captain, I'm seeing the same pattern again, Amanda said. They're using formation Delta 7. That's the same formation they used at New Austin Kepler 7 and the Ross system. Jake walked over to Amanda's station. She had covered 3 monitors with charts and diagrams showing Zephyrian attack patterns. Red lines showed ship movements, blue dots showed weapon firing sequences, and green circles showed shield configurations. They really do fight the same way every time, Jake said. Not just the same way, Amanda corrected. The exact same way. Watch this. She pulled up recordings from 3 different battles. Ship positioning, weapon timing, shield rotations, everything is identical down to the second. Chief Engineer Kelly Brooks joined them at the science station. She had been working with Amanda to analyze Zephyrian technology. It's like they're running a computer program, Kelly said. No creativity, no adaptation, just pure efficiency. But it works, said Lieutenant Commander Tony Garcia, the weapons officer. He had been trying to find weaknesses in Zephyrian defenses for weeks. Look at the results. They haven't lost a single ship in any battle we've observed. Jake watched the main screen as the Zephyrian fleet reached the Centauri colonies. The attack began exactly as Amanda had predicted. The alien ships moved into formation, their weapons charged in perfect synchronization, and they began systematically destroying the human defensive platforms. Time to destruction of the first colony? Jake asked. Sam checked his readings. 14 minutes, sir. Same as New Austin, Amanda noted. Same as all the others. Jake felt frustrated. They had learned a lot about how the Zephyrians fought, but they still had no idea how to stop them. The alien ships were faster, stronger, and better armed than anything humanity had ever built. Worse, they fought with machine-like precision. That left no room for error. Captain, called Sergeant Major Beth Collins from the back of the bridge. She had been working with the ship's Marines to study human military history. I think I found something. Jake turned to look at her. Beth was a tough soldier who had fought in the colonial wars. If anyone could find a way to fight in superior enemy, it would be her. What did you find? I've been studying every underdog victory in human history, Beth said. David and Goliath, the American Revolution, the Battle of Thermopylae. Every time a smaller force beat a bigger one. And they all have one thing in common. The bigger force was overconfident. They thought they knew exactly how the battle would go, so they didn't adapt when things changed. Amanda looked interested. You think the Zephyrians are overconfident? I think they're worse than overconfident, Beth replied. I think they're trapped by their own success. They've won so many battles the same way that they can't imagine losing. Tony spoke up from his weapons station. But their shields are still impenetrable. Their weapons still cut through our hulls like paper. Overconfidence doesn't change physics. No, Beth agreed. But it might change tactics. Captain, what if we could make them fight differently? Force them out of their comfort zone? Jake thought about this. You mean make them improvise? Exactly. These aliens have conquered dozens of species, maybe hundreds. But I bet they've never faced an enemy that refused to fight by the rules. On the main screen, the first Centauri colony exploded in a ball of fire. The Zephyrian fleet moved on to the next target without pausing. 12 minutes later, that colony was gone too. They're so efficient, Amanda muttered. No wasted motion, no unnecessary destruction. They destroy only what they need to destroy to achieve their goals. That's another weakness, Beth said. They're not emotional. They don't get angry or frustrated, but humans do. And sometimes anger makes us do things that don't make sense to a logical mind. Jake began to see what Beth was getting at. You think we should make them angry? I think we should make them confused. Do things they don't expect. Force them to make decisions they've never had to make before. Kelly looked skeptical. One ship against their entire fleet? Even if we confuse them, we're still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Not if we're smart about it, Beth replied. We don't have to beat their whole fleet. We just have to prove that they can be beaten. Show other species that these aliens aren't invincible. Jake walked back to his command chair. Around him, his crew continued their work. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing it was probably suicide. But now, for the first time in weeks, Jake felt a spark of hope. Amanda, he said, I want you to analyze their communication patterns. See if you can figure out how their command structure works. Already on it, Captain. I think they use a rigid hierarchy. Lower-ranking ships can't act without permission from higher-ranking ones. Tony, I want you to design some unconventional attack patterns. Things that don't follow standard military doctrine. Unconventional how? Surprise me, Jake said. Beth, work with Tony on this. I want tactics that would make no sense to a logical mind. Yes, sir. Jake looked at the main screen, where the Zephyrian fleet was finishing its destruction of the Centauri system. In a few hours, they would move on to the next target and the next. Eventually, they would reach Earth. Kelly, Jake said, how's our stealth system holding up? So far, so good. We're running dark and staying at maximum sensor range. They haven't detected us yet. Good. Because I think it's time we stopped just watching. Sam turned in his chair. Captain, I want to test a theory. We're going to try something the Zephyrians have never seen before. What's that, sir? Jake smiled for the first time in weeks. We're going to fight dirty. The bridge went quiet except for the hum of the ship's systems. Everyone understood what the captain was suggesting. They were going to attack the most powerful military force in the galaxy. It was insane. It was impossible. But as Jake looked at the faces of his crew, he saw something that surprised him. They weren't afraid anymore, they were excited. For the first time since this war began, they had a plan. It might not work. They would probably die trying. But they were going to show the Zephyrians something they had never seen before. Humans who refused to give up, no matter how impossible. The odds. All right, people, Jake said. Let's teach these aliens what happens when they pick a fight with humanity. Captain Jake Morrison watched the lone Zephyrian scout ship through the Liberty's main screen. The silver vessel moved through space like a hunting shark, scanning the debris field where the human colony of Haven 7 used to exist. It was perfect for their first test. Target acquired, Lieutenant Commander Tony Garcia reported from his weapons station. One scout ship, no escorts. Just like we planned. Jake nodded. For the past week, they had been tracking individual Zephyrian ships, looking for the right opportunity. This scout was separated from the main fleet by several light hours. If their plan worked, they could attack and escape before reinforcements arrived. Amanda, any change in their scanning patterns? Jake asked. Dr. Amanda Price shook her head. Same routine they've used everywhere else. Systematic grid search checking for survivors or salvageable technology. They're not expecting any trouble. Good. Ryan, are you ready? Chief Navigator Ryan Holmes looked nervous, but his hands were steady on the controls. Hyperspace jump calculated, Captain. It's going to be close. Jake had asked Ryan to plan something that broke every rule of space combat. Instead of approaching from a safe distance, they would jump out of hyperspace almost on top of the enemy ship. No one had ever tried such a dangerous maneuver in battle. Kelly, how are the engines? Chief Engineer Kelly Brooks checked her readings, running at 110%. I can give you maybe 5 minutes at this level before we risk a core breach. That's all we need. Beth, your Marines ready? Sergeant Major Beth Collins nodded from her position near the tactical display. Ready, Captain? If this works, we'll have about 30 seconds to gather data before we have to run. Jake took a deep breath. Around him, his crew waited for the order. They had spent days planning this attack, but they all knew it was still mostly guesswork. They were about to test their theories against an enemy that had never lost a battle. All right, people, let's make history. Ryan, execute jump. The stars disappeared as the Liberty dropped into hyperspace. For a few seconds, they traveled through the strange blue-white tunnel between normal space and the higher dimensions. Then, they emerged directly behind the Zephyrian scout ship, so close that Jake could see details on the alien hull. Fire! Jake shouted. Tony's fingers flew over his controls. Instead of firing in neat, organized patterns like human ships normally did, he unleashed every weapon at once in a chaotic barrage. Plasma cannons, missile launchers, and railguns all fired at different times and different angles. The Zephyrian ship's shields flared as they absorbed the attack. But something was wrong. The shields flickered and wavered instead of maintaining their usual steady glow. Their shields are fluctuating, Amanda reported excitedly. The random firing pattern is creating interference. The Zephyrian ship began to turn, trying to bring its weapons to bear on the Liberty. But Ryan was already moving, spinning their ship in a wild corkscrew pattern that no military academy would ever teach. They're trying to lock onto us, Sam reported from communications. But they can't get a clear targeting solution. Jake watched the enemy ship struggle to respond. For the first time, he was seeing Zephyrians react to something unexpected. Their perfect formation was broken. Their systematic approach was failing. Tony, keep firing. Don't let them recover. The weapons officer grinned as he unleashed another barrage. This time, he mixed explosive missiles with energy weapons and even launched some of their mining charges, creating a confusing cloud of explosions around the enemy ship. One of the mining charges detonated close to the Zephyrian hull. To everyone's surprise, it actually damaged their shields. Did you see that? Kelly shouted from her station. The mining charge worked. Their shields aren't designed to handle that type of explosion. Amanda, are you recording this? Every second, Captain. This is incredible data. The Zephyrian ship finally managed to fire back. A beam of pure energy lanced out toward the Liberty, but Ryan was ready. He threw their ship into a spiral dive that brought them under the enemy's firing arc. Time to go, Jake ordered. Ryan, get us out of here. Jumping now. The Liberty disappeared back into hyperspace just as more Zephyrian ships began arriving. They had spent less than 2 minutes in combat, but it felt like hours. When they emerged in normal space, the crew was quiet for a moment. Then Tony let out a whoop of joy. We did it. We actually hurt them. More than that, Amanda said, studying her readings. We confused them. Look at this communication traffic I intercepted. They're asking their command ship for new orders. They don't know how to respond to our tactics. Jake felt a surge of hope. What exactly did we learn? Amanda pulled up her analysis on the main screen. 3 things. First, their shields can be disrupted by chaotic energy patterns. Second, they can't target effectively when we move unpredictably. And third, they have to ask permission before changing their tactics. That last one is important, Beth added. It means there's a delay in their responses. If we can keep them confused long enough, we can stay ahead of their decision-making process. Kelly looked at her engineering reports. Captain, we took some damage from our own maneuvers. The engines are stressed and we lost some hull plating from those crazy spins Ryan pulled. But we're alive, Ryan said with a grin. and they're probably very confused right now. Jake walked to the center of the bridge. All right, people, this was just the beginning. We proved that these aliens can be hurt. Now we need to figure out how to hurt them badly enough to matter. Over the next 2 weeks, the Liberty conducted 6 more hit-and-run attacks. Each time, they tried different tactics. Sometimes they attacked from multiple directions using fighter drones. Sometimes they used the gravity wells of nearby planets to slingshot around obstacles. Once they even hid inside an asteroid field and launched mining charges like torpedoes. Every attack taught them something new. The Zephyrians were incredibly powerful, but they were also predictable. They responded to every human tactic with standard countermeasures from their military manual. The problem was that humans weren't following any manual. They're getting frustrated, Amanda reported after their latest attack. I'm intercepting more and more communications between their ships and their command structure. They're requesting new tactics to deal with us. Are they getting them? Jake asked. Some, but it takes time. Their command ship has to analyze our tactics, develop countermeasures, and then transmit new orders to the entire fleet. We're moving faster than their bureaucracy can handle. Jake nodded. This was what Beth had predicted. The Zephyrians' greatest strength was also their weakness. Their perfect organization made them efficient, but it also made them slow to adapt. Captain, Sam said from his communication station, I'm picking up a priority transmission from Earth Command. The main screen flickered to show Admiral Patterson. She looked even more tired than before, but there was something different in her eyes. Hope, maybe. Jake, I don't know what you're doing out there, but keep doing it. We're getting reports from all over the galaxy. Zephyrian fleets are slowing down, changing course, even stopping their attacks to regroup. You've got them worried. Jake felt a chill of excitement. Admiral, are you saying our attacks are affecting their entire campaign? That's exactly what I'm saying. For the first time since this war started, they're not moving forward on schedule. Whatever you're doing, it's working. After the transmission ended, Jake looked around at his crew. They had started this mission hoping to learn something useful. Instead, they had discovered something incredible. The Zephyrians could be beaten. All right, people, Jake said. It's time to take this to the next level. We've been annoying them with pinpricks. Now we need to hit them where it really hurts. What do you have in mind? Amanda asked. Jake smiled. We're going to attack their command ship. The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew that the Zephyrian command ship was the most heavily defended vessel in their fleet. It was surrounded by dozens of escort ships and protected by shields that could deflect the firepower of an entire human battle group. Captain, Kelly said carefully, that's not just dangerous, that's impossible. So was everything else we've done, Jake replied. But we've learned something these aliens don't understand. Sometimes impossible is just another word for unexpected. Beth stood up from her station. I'm with the captain. We've shown that they can bleed. Now let's show them they can die. One by one, the rest of the crew nodded their agreement. They had come too far to stop now. The Liberty was just one ship against an empire that had conquered galaxies. But they were one ship that refused to give up, and sometimes that was enough to change everything. The asteroid field around the destroyed Mars colony looked like a graveyard of broken dreams. Captain Jake Morrison floated in his command chair aboard the USS Liberty, watching chunks of red rock drift past the main screen. Somewhere in this debris field, they would make their last stand. Kelly, report, Jake said quietly. Chief Engineer Kelly Brooks looked up from her station with tired eyes. We've stripped everything non-essential, Captain. The recreational areas, the science labs, even half the crew quarters. I've converted it all into extra reactor shielding and weapon power. Jake nodded. For the past 3 days, his crew had been turning the Liberty into a weapon designed for one purpose: to ram the Zephyrian command ship and detonate their reactor at the moment of impact. It was a suicide mission, and everyone knew it. Tony, weapon status? Lieutenant Commander Tony Garcia ran his hands through his hair. All weapon systems modified for maximum damage output. We'll have maybe 30 seconds of sustained fire before the power relays burn out. After that, he shrugged. After that we ram, Jake finished. Amanda, any change in the Zephyrian fleet's approach? Dr. Amanda Price checked her long-range sensors. "They're still coming, Captain. 200 ships, just like we predicted. The command ship is in the center of the formation, protected by escorts on all sides." Jake felt his stomach tighten. 200 ships against one. Those were impossible odds, even for humans who specialized in impossible situations. "Sam, any response to our challenge?" Lieutenant Sam Rivers shook his head. "Nothing, sir. Radio silence from the entire fleet." 3 hours ago, Jake had broadcast a message on all frequencies, both human and Zephyrian. He had challenged their war marshal to single combat, ship against ship, winner takes all. It was a desperate bluff, but he hoped the alien commanders' pride might make him accept. "Captain," said Sergeant Major Beth Collins from her position near the tactical display, "the crew is asking for a final briefing." Jake looked around the bridge at his officers. These people had followed him into hell itself. They deserved to know exactly what they were facing. "Put me on ship-wide communication." Sam nodded and opened the channel. "You're on, Captain." Jake stood up and faced the main screen, knowing that 800 people throughout the ship were watching him. "This is Captain Morrison. In approximately 1 hour, the Zephyrian fleet will arrive at our position. We all know why we're here. Earth needs time to prepare its defenses, and we're going to buy them that time." He paused, looking at the faces of his bridge crew. They were scared, but they were also determined. "I won't lie to you. We probably won't survive this battle, but we're going to make it count. Every second we keep that fleet busy is another second for our families to prepare. Every shot we fire is one less shot they can fire at Earth." Cock took a deep breath. "We've learned something important over the past few weeks. These aliens aren't invincible. They can be hurt, they can be confused, and they can be beaten. Today we're going to prove that to the entire galaxy. The Liberty has always been more than just a ship. It's been our home, our family. And today, it's going to be our weapon. We're going to show the Zephyrians what happens when they threaten humanity." Jake looked directly into the camera. "I'm proud to serve with all of you. Now let's go save our species." The communication channel closed. Around the bridge, his crew went back to their preparations. But Jake could see something in their eyes that hadn't been there before. Peace, maybe. They had accepted what was coming. "Captain," Amanda said suddenly, "I'm detecting hyperspace distortions. They're arriving." The main screen filled with silver ships emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation. The Zephyrian fleet spread out across space like a deadly flower, with the massive command ship at its center. Jake had seen recordings of Zephyrian vessels before, but seeing 200 of them in person was overwhelming. "My God," Kelly whispered. "Look at the size of that command ship." The Zephyrian flagship was enormous, easily 10 times larger than the Liberty. Its crystalline hull caught the light from the distant sun and threw it back in rainbow patterns. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Sam, are you picking up any communications?" "Yes, sir. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies." Sam listened to his headset for a moment, then looked up in surprise. "Captain, they're responding to your challenge." "What do they say?" "The War Marshal will accept single combat. He says..." Sam paused. "He says he's curious to see how the primitive humans plan to die." Jake felt a surge of anger, but he pushed it down. Anger was good. It would keep him focused. "Well, we'll just have to show him." The Zephyrian fleet began moving into a wide circle around the asteroid field. Jake realized they were creating an arena for the duel. Apparently, the War Marshal wanted his entire fleet to watch him destroy the Liberty. "Ryan, take us out to meet them." Chief Navigator Ryan Holmes engaged. The engines. The Liberty moved out of the asteroid field toward the center of the Zephyrian formation. As they approached, one ship detached itself from the fleet and moved to meet them. It was the command ship itself. "He's actually doing it," Amanda said, in amazement. "The War Marshal is coming out to fight us personally." Jake studied the approaching vessel. Up close, it was even more impressive. Energy fields danced across its hull like living lightning. Weapons ports opened and closed in what looked like breathing patterns. It was more like a living creature than a spaceship. "Tony, target their shield generators." "Which ones, Captain?" I count at least 50, Jake smiled grimly. All of them. The two ships approached each other slowly, like ancient knights riding to meet in single combat. Around them, the Zephyrian fleet watched in perfect silence. "Captain," Beth said from her station, "I've been thinking about our boarding plan." Jake turned to her. The boarding plan was their backup option in case the ramming attack failed. Beth would lead a team of Marines onto the Zephyrian command ship to try to capture their war marshal. What about it? If we can take him alive, it might throw their entire command structure into chaos. These aliens rely on rigid hierarchy. Remove the leader and they might not know what to do. That's assuming we can get close enough to board them. We will, Beth said with certainty. One way or another, we're getting onto that ship. The Zephyrian command ship was now close enough that Jake could see details on its hull. Strange symbols glowed along the sides, probably their equivalent of ship markings. Smaller vessels moved around it like insects around a giant. "Sam, open a channel to the War Marshal." "Channel open, sir." Jake stood up and faced the main screen. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Liberty. I'm ready to begin." The screen flickered and showed the interior of the Zephyrian command ship. The War Marshal stood in the center of what looked like a crystal garden. He was tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to glow from within. When he spoke, his voice was like music played through broken glass. "I am War Marshal Keithvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You have amused me with your pathetic attacks on my scouts. Now you will die with honor, as befits a warrior." "We'll see about that," Jake replied. Keithvar tilted his head, studying Jake with eyes like black diamonds. "You interest me, human. Your species fights with no logic, no organization. Yet you have caused me considerable inconvenience. How do you explain this?" Jake smiled. "We're just getting started." The War Marshal's expression didn't change, but Jake could sense his confusion. Zephyrians clearly weren't used to enemies who talked back. "Begin," Keithvar said simply. The duel was about to start. Jake looked around his bridge one last time, at the faces of the crew who had become his family. They were ready. "All right, people," he said quietly. "Let's show them what humanity is made of." The Liberty turned toward the massive Zephyrian command ship and began its final attack run. Around them, 200 enemy vessels watched in silence as one small human ship prepared to challenge an empire. The battle began in silence. The USS Liberty and the Zephyrian command ship faced each other across empty space like two ancient warriors preparing to duel. Captain Jake Morrison gripped the arms of his command chair as War Marshal Keithvar's massive vessel began to glow with building energy. "Tony, fire everything!" Jake shouted. Lieutenant Commander Tony Garcia unleashed every weapon the Liberty had. Plasma cannons, missile launchers, and railguns all fired at once in the chaotic pattern they had practiced. The barrage struck the Zephyrian ship's shields, creating a light show of explosions and energy discharges. The enemy ship barely moved. Its shields absorbed the attack easily, barely flickering under the assault. Then Keithvar fired back. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the command ship, so bright it hurt to look at. Chief Navigator Ryan Holmes threw the Liberty into a wild spin, but the beam clipped their port side. Alarms blared as sections of the hull melted away like ice in fire. "Hull breach on decks 7 through 9, Chief Engineer Kelly Brooks shouted over the noise. "Emergency force fields are holding, but barely." Jake felt the ship shudder around him. They had taken more damage in 5 seconds than in all their previous battles combined, but they were still alive, and that surprised him. "Amanda, why aren't we dead?" Dr. Amanda Price was frantically studying her sensors. "He's toying with us. That shot could have destroyed us completely, but he aimed for a non-critical section." Jake understood. The War Marshal wasn't trying to kill them quickly. He wanted to humiliate them in front of his fleet. That arrogance might be their only chance. "Ryan, take us into the asteroid field." "Sir, do it. Use the asteroids as cover." The Liberty dove toward the debris field where Mars used to orbit. Ryan weaved between chunks of rock and metal, using them as shields against the Zephyrian ship's massive weapons. Keithvar followed, but his ship was too large to maneuver easily among the asteroids. The War Marshal was forced to either blast through the debris or move more carefully. "He's getting frustrated," Amanda reported. "I'm picking up communications between his ship and the fleet. They're asking permission to assist him." "What's his response?" "He's refusing help. His pride won't let other ships join the duel." Jake smiled grimly. "Good. Tony, prepare the mining charges." They had loaded their cargo bay with every mining explosive they could find in the Mars debris field. The charges weren't military weapons, but they had discovered that Zephyrian shields weren't designed to handle that type of explosion. "Charges. Ready, Captain. Wait for my signal." The Liberty spun around a large asteroid and came face to face with the command ship. For a moment, the two vessels hung motionless, staring at each other across a few hundred meters of space. Jake could see War Marshal Kethvar through the crystalline hull of his ship. The alien looked angry now, his silver skin glowing brighter with emotion. "Tony, fire the charges, all of them." Dozens of mining explosives shot out from the Liberty's cargo bay. They weren't guided missiles, just simple bombs with timers. But they filled the space between the two ships with a cloud of explosions. The Zephyrian shields flared and sparked as they tried to handle the chaotic energy patterns. For the first time in the battle, Kethvar's ship actually moved backward, pushed by the force of the blasts. "It's working," Kelly shouted. "His shields are fluctuating." Jake saw their chance. "Ram them, full speed." Ryan pushed the engines to maximum power. The Liberty shot forward through the cloud of explosions, heading straight for the Zephyrian command ship. But Kethvar was ready. Energy beams lanced out from dozens of weapon ports, all targeted at the Liberty's reactor core. The human ship's shields collapsed instantly under the concentrated fire. "Reactor containment failing," Kelly screamed. "We have maybe 30 seconds before core breach." The Liberty was dying, but it was still moving forward. Jake could see the crystalline hull of the enemy ship growing larger on the main screen. They were going to make it. They were actually going to ram the most powerful ship in the Zephyrian fleet. Then everything changed. "Captain," Sergeant Major Beth Collins shouted from the back of the bridge. "My Marines are reporting something impossible. The cargo bay doors are opening on the Zephyrian ship." Jake spun around to stare at her. "What? They're opening docking bays. I think they want us to board them." Amanda looked up from her sensors in amazement. "She's right, they're not trying to destroy us anymore. They're trying to capture us." Jake felt a chill of understanding. Kethvar wasn't just arrogant, he was curious. The War Marshal had never faced an enemy like humans before, and he wanted to study them up close. "New plan," Jake announced. "Beth, get your Marines ready for boarding action." "Sir? If they want to capture us, we'll let them, right up until we're inside their ship." Beth grinned fiercely. "Understood, Captain." The Liberty crashed into the Zephyrian command ship, but not in the way Jake had planned. Instead of ramming the hull, they were pulled into a massive docking bay by some kind of tractor beam. The impact was hard, but not fatal. Emergency lights flickered on as the ship's systems began shutting down. The reactor was still critical, but they had maybe 5 minutes before it exploded. "Everyone out," Jake ordered. "Beth, lead the way." Sergeant Major Collins and her Marines were already moving. They had spent weeks planning for this moment, studying the layout of Zephyrian ships and preparing for close combat in alien environments. The cargo bay of the enemy ship was enormous, filled with crystalline structures that hummed with energy. Zephyrian soldiers were waiting for them, but they clearly expected the humans to surrender. They were wrong. Beth's Marines attacked immediately, using weapons and tactics that the aliens had never seen. Instead of fighting in formation, they scattered and used the crystal structures as cover. Instead of firing in organized volleys, they shot from all directions at once. The Zephyrians tried to respond with their standard tactics, but their perfect formations were useless in the chaotic environment of their own cargo bay. "This way," Beth shouted, leading a charge toward what looked like a control room. Jake followed with the rest of his crew. Behind them, the Liberty's reactor was counting down to explosion. They had maybe 3 minutes now. They fought their way through corridors filled with confused aliens. The Zephyrians had never dealt with enemies who fought inside their own ships. Their weapons were designed for space combat, not close quarters battle. Finally, they reached the command center. War Marshal Kethvar stood in the middle of his crystal garden surrounded by his officers. He looked more puzzled than afraid. "Impossible," he said in his musical voice. "You were defeated. Why do you continue to fight?" Jake stepped forward, his weapon pointed at the alien commander. "Because we're human. We don't know how to quit. But you have lost. Your ship is destroyed. Your species will be conquered. What purpose does this serve?" Jake smiled. "You really don't understand, do you? This was never about winning. This was about sending a message." "What message?" "That you can be beaten." Before Kethvar could respond, Jake activated his communicator. "Sam, are you ready?" Lieutenant Sam Rivers' voice crackled over the radio from somewhere else in the ship. "Ready, Captain. Broadcasting on all frequencies." Jake looked directly at War Marshal Kethvar. "You've conquered dozens of species because they fought the way you expected them to fight. But humans are different. We don't follow your rules. We don't use your tactics. And we never ever give up." "This proves nothing," Kethvar said, but his voice was uncertain. "It proves everything," Jake replied. "Your own fleet is watching this. They're seeing their invincible war marshal captured by a handful of humans. How long do you think it will take for word to spread across the galaxy?" Through the crystal windows of the command center, Jake could see the other Zephyrian ships. They were moving in confused patterns, no longer maintaining their perfect formations. "Sir," Beth said quietly, "the Liberty's reactor is about to go." Jake nodded. They had done what they came to do. The message was sent. Now it was time to pay the price. But as he watched the Zephyrian fleet through the windows, he realized something incredible was happening. Ships were breaking formation. Some were actually retreating. Others were just hanging motionless in space as if their crews didn't know what to do. For the first time in their history, the Zephyrians were facing an enemy they couldn't understand. And fear was spreading through their ranks like wildfire. The Liberty exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the asteroid field. But by then, the real damage was already done. The myth of Zephyrian invincibility was broken. War Marshal Kethvar stared at the expanding cloud of debris where the human ship had been. "What have you done?" he whispered. Jake smiled as Zephyrian guards surrounded him and his crew. "We've shown the galaxy that you can bleed, and once people know you can bleed, they'll never stop fighting you." 6 months later, the Zephyrian Empire was crumbling. Species across 3 galaxies had risen in rebellion, using the tactics that the crew of the USS Liberty had developed. The war wasn't over, but for the first time humanity and their allies believed they could win. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew had paid the ultimate price, but their sacrifice had changed everything. They had proven that sometimes one ship and one crew who refused to surrender can alter the fate of the entire galaxy.